Hey friends, and welcome back to LGBT Crime Files. If you're new here, this is your safe corner on the internet where we dive into the stories of LGBTQ+ individuals whose lives were forever altered or tragically ended due to hate. It all started with me being completely obsessed with true crime. But over time, I realized that our stories, the ones that belong to the queer community, are often buried, sensationalized, or left untold. So I made it my mission to tell them right. If that matters to you, don't forget to subscribe, like, and drop a comment below. Every share, every interaction helps amplify voices that deserve to be heard. Today, we talk about a man who was gentle, intelligent, and full of life, someone who didn't deserve what happened to him. This is the story of Ihsane Jarfi, the first legally recognized anti-gay hate crime victim in Belgium. Viewer discretion is advised. This story includes descriptions of violence and homophobic hate. Let's start where stories should always begin, with the person, not the crime. Ihsane Jarfi was born on February 8, 1979, in Liege, a vibrant, working-class city in Belgium. His father, Ihsane Jarfi, came from Morocco, while his mother, Christine, was Belgian. Ihsane grew up at the intersection of two identities, North African and European, Muslim and secular, queer and spiritual. He studied education and languages, eventually becoming a school counselor. Students described him as gentle, patient, and always ready with a smile. He wasn't just a teacher, he was someone who listened. He knew what it was like to be different, and he used that experience to help others feel seen. He loved literature, especially French poetry, and was working on a novel exploring what it meant to be both Muslim and gay, a tension that defined much of his inner life. In a journal entry once shared by his father, Ihsane wrote, "I live in between spaces. I'm to Arab for some, to European for others, to gay for religion, to religious for the gays. But I am me, and that should be enough." That quote alone, it hits so hard, doesn't it? He wasn't closeted. He wasn't trying to be someone he wasn't. He lived his life authentically, even when it meant being stared at, harassed, or whispered about in the streets of Liege. His relationship with his father evolved beautifully. In the beginning, Ihsane struggled. He had grown up in a conservative Muslim environment where homosexuality was taboo. But over time, love won. Unconditional, transformative love. The kind that says, "I may not understand everything, but I will stand beside you anyway." It was a Saturday night. Ihsane went out like any other young man would, dressed nicely, spirits high, meeting friends at Open Bar, one of Liege's well-known gay bars. Around 3:30 a.m., he left the bar alone. Minutes later, he was seen speaking to four men in a Volkswagen Polo. Witnesses later said the men were lurking nearby, drinking and joking around, but their jokes were nasty. They were looking to provoke. Eric Parmentier, the driver, allegedly offered Ihsane a ride home. But it wasn't kindness. It was a trap. What happened in that car is hard to talk about. They mocked him. They taunted him. They said things like, "You like it rough, don't you?" and "You faggot," phrases designed to dehumanize him. They pulled over outside the city, took him into a field, and beat him senseless. Not just punches, but ritualistic, prolonged violence. They stripped him naked, left him bleeding and cold, and drove away. He lay there, broken, humiliated, freezing, and died alone of hypothermia and internal trauma. He wasn't found until 2 days later by a farmer. His body lay curled like a child by the side of a country road. Let's talk about the killers, not to glorify them, but to understand what kind of people could do this. Eric Parmentier, 36 years old, identified as the ringleader. Parmentier had a history of violent offenses. He confessed to wanting to punish and humiliate Ihsane Jarfi. Mutlu Kizil, 29 or 31 years old, Kizil was among the assailants and was charged with homophobic murder. Jeremy Wintgens, 30 years old. Wintgens participated in the attack and was convicted for his role in the homophobic assassination. Jonathan Leku, 25 years old. Leku had a criminal record, including theft and drugs, and was sentenced for the homophobic murder. They later claimed the crime wasn't premeditated. But ask yourself, what kind of person jokes about beating a gay man and then does it? That's not random violence. That's hate with intent. Fast forward to 2014, the trial began. The courtroom was packed. Media from across Europe showed up. LGBTQ+ activists were present. So were far-right protesters. But most importantly, the court listened. The judge and jury ruled that this was a homophobic murder, a hate crime, not just a random act of brutality. The sentences were harsh. In December 2014, following a trial that began in November, the Liege Assize Court convicted Mutlu Kiziloslan, Jeremy Windgens, and Eric Parmentier to life imprisonment for the homophobic assassination of Ihsane Jarfi. Jonathan Leku was sentenced to 30 years in prison for homophobic murder. It was historic, the first time in Belgian history that a murder was officially classified as motivated by homophobia. Now let's talk about a man who turned unimaginable pain into something powerful. Ihsane Jarfi, Ihsane's father, didn't disappear after the funeral. He stood in front of cameras. He wrote letters. He gave speeches. He told the world, "My son died because of hate. But I will fight that hate with education, with compassion, and with dialogue." He founded La Fondation Ihsane Jarfi, which today educates in schools about LGBTQ+ acceptance, hosts multicultural discussions about queerness and religion, provides mental health support for at-risk youth, organizes the annual March Against Hate in Liege. In 2018, he co-produced a stage play called La Revanche d'Ihsane, Ihsane's Revenge, turning grief into art and art into activism. And in 2021, a public mural of Ihsane was unveiled in Liege. It shows his face, smiling, surrounded by birds in flight, symbolizing freedom, rebirth, and resistance. Here's the thing. This case wasn't just about one man. It's about how society treats people it sees as other. It's about the double marginalization of being queer and Arab. The fear of walking home after a night out. The fact that even in progressive countries, LGBTQ+ lives are still seen as disposable by some. So we remember Ihsane. We speak his name, we tell his story, again and again until no one forgets. Ihsane Jarfi deserved to live. He deserved to grow old, fall in love, teach more kids, write more poetry, and continue bridging worlds. Instead, his name became a symbol of injustice, of memory, of resistance, but also of what it means to keep loving, even when the world tells you not to. Leave a comment below. Have you ever faced hate just for being who you are? What gives you hope? Let's talk, like a family. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and click that notification bell so you don't miss the next story we uncover on LGBT Crime Files. Until next time, stay safe, stay loud, and never stop fighting for the right to exist. Justice for Ihsane, always.